There are moments in life when everything you trusted in begins to shake. The ground beneath you feels unstable. The people you depended on are no longer around. The plans you made start to crumble right before your eyes. You try to hold it all together, but deep down inside you feel the pressure mounting. You feel the fear creeping in. And in that quiet, vulnerable space, you begin to wonder if peace is even possible anymore. But peace is not found in the absence of trouble. It's not hidden in perfect circumstances or flawless plans. True peace, the kind that stills your soul even when the world around you is in chaos, can only come through faith. Faith in something bigger than you. Faith in a God who sees the whole picture when you can barely see today. You weren't created to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You weren't meant to face every hardship with your own strength. Life will break you if you try to do it all alone. And maybe, just maybe, you're feeling this pressure not because you're weak, but because you've been trying to be strong for too long. The peace your heart longs for begins when you finally let go and let God take over. There's a quiet strength that comes from faith, one that the world can't understand. It doesn't make sense to those who measure peace by comfort or success, but this kind of peace is deeper. It's not tied to how much money you have, how many friends you've made, or how many goals you've achieved. It's rooted in trust. Trust that even in the middle of the storm, you're not alone. Trust that the one who created you hasn't forgotten you. Faith doesn't promise a life without storms. It doesn't guarantee that every prayer will be answered in the way you hope, but it does promise that you will never walk through your battles alone. It promises that your pain will not be wasted, your tears will not go unnoticed, and your future will not be shaped by fear. Faith is what bridges the gap between chaos and calm. It whispers, "You are safe here, even now." Some people search the whole world for peace. They try to buy it. They try to earn it. They chase after relationships, careers, addictions, anything that can fill the silence inside. But no matter how much they achieve or acquire, the emptiness remains. Maybe you've been running for a long time, running from your past, from your pain, from your questions. Maybe you've tried to pretend that everything's okay, even when it's not. But deep down you know something's missing. That missing piece is peace. And peace only comes when you stop trying to control everything and start trusting the one who holds everything. The truth is, you don't have to have it all figured out to find peace. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to understand why things happened the way they did. What you need is to believe that your life still has purpose, that your brokenness doesn't disqualify you, that your fears don't define you, and that there is a God who's working behind the scenes even when you can't see it. Sometimes faith means waking up each day and choosing to believe again, choosing to believe that your prayers are being heard, that your pain has a purpose, that your future is still in good hands. Peace doesn't always show up as a loud, dramatic moment. Often it's a quiet calm that settles over your spirit when you finally let go of the need to control and surrender to the one who never fails. And even in the silence, when the prayers seem unanswered, when the nights feel long, when nothing seems to change, God is still speaking. He is still moving. He is still near. The silence is not a sign of abandonment. It's often the space where the deepest work is done. In the quiet, your faith grows roots. In the waiting, your peace is forged. Peace is not passive. It's a daily decision to trust, even when you're tired, to hope, even when you're heartbroken, to believe, even when you've been disappointed before. And every time you choose faith over fear, you reclaim a little more peace for your soul. There's a reason you're still standing after everything you've been through. There's a reason you didn't break completely. That strength you feel in your weakest moments, it's not your own. It's the grace of God carrying you. It's the power of peace that goes beyond understanding. A peace that says, yes, I've been hurt, but I'm still here. Yes, I've faced loss, but I haven't lost my faith. And there is a sacred stillness that comes when you stop striving and start resting in what you cannot see but deeply believe. You don't have to work for God's approval. You don't have to earn peace through perfection. Peace is a gift, freely given to the heart that chooses faith. You might not feel strong, you might not feel ready, but you are never without help, and you are never without hope. Even in the darkest valley there is light. Even in your lowest moment there is a whisper reminding you you're not alone. That whisper is the voice of peace. The weight you've been carrying, give it to God. The questions you've been asking, lay them at His feet. The fear that's been stealing your sleep, replace it with trust. Let peace flood your heart again. Let your soul breathe. You don't have to keep fighting for control. Let go, rest, trust. There is a beautiful promise waiting for you, that no matter what happens, you will be okay. Not because life will always be easy, but because you're anchored in something eternal. Faith isn't just a belief. When you feel like giving up, remember who's holding you. When you feel alone, remember who called you by name. When you feel broken, remember who promises to restore. Peace is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. You don't need a sign in the sky to know you're not alone. Peace is your sign. That unexplainable calm in the middle of chaos, that's God. That strength to get out of bed when your heart is heavy, that's God. That quiet assurance that things will work out even when you can't see how, that's God. The world may tell you to worry, to panic, to hustle, but heaven tells you to rest, to trust, to believe. The battle is not yours. It belongs to the one who has never lost. Let Him fight for you. Let Him carry you. Let Him fill you with peace that won't be shaken by what's happening around you. You are not defined by what you're going through. You are not limited by your past. You are not bound by fear. You are free to walk in peace, free to live with confidence, free to trust that your story is still unfolding in beautiful ways. Faith turns the fearful into the fearless. It turns the overwhelmed into the overcomer. It turns the anxious heart into a heart at rest. You don't need to wait for everything to be perfect to feel peace. You can have it now, right here, right where you are. You are stronger than you think, not because of your own strength, but because of the one who strengthens you. The peace you seek is already available. All you have to do is receive it, breathe it in, let it fill the empty places, let it speak louder than the lies, let it quiet the storm inside you. God has not forgotten you. He is not distant. He is not silent. He is closer than your next breath, and He is offering you something this world cannot give. Perfect peace through perfect faith. You don't have to strive anymore. You don't have to worry. You don't have to fear what's next. True peace isn't something you find when everything is perfect. No matter how much you plan, prepare, or hope, things can change in a moment. Relationships end. Jobs are lost. Health can falter. Dreams sometimes break. And if your peace depends on everything going right, you'll spend your life in a constant state of anxiety, waiting for something to go wrong. The faith changes that. Faith is what allows you to walk through the darkest valleys without falling apart. It's the quiet confidence that even when everything seems out of control, God is still in control. It's trusting that there's a purpose behind your pain, a lesson in your trial, and a greater plan unfolding beyond what you can see. When you trust God, not just when things are good, but especially when they're not, you begin to experience a different kind of peace. A peace that's not based on what's happening around you, but on what's happening inside you. It's a peace that can't be taken away by people, situations, or even your own fears, because it's rooted in something eternal. There may be moments when the storm rages, when your heart is overwhelmed, when you feel like everything is falling apart. But even in those moments, you can be still. You can breathe. You can rest in the assurance that God has not abandoned you. He hasn't forgotten the promises He made to you. He sees your tears. He hears your prayers. And He's working even when it feels like nothing is happening. This world will offer you many ways to chase peace, through success, possessions, people, or distractions. But none of them will last. They might cover the pain for a while, but they won't heal it. Only God can give you the kind of peace that goes beyond understanding. A peace that stays when everything else leaves. A peace that protects your mind and guards your heart. So when life feels uncertain, don't look for peace in your surroundings. Look for it in your Savior. When everything is shaking, stand firm in faith, because peace doesn't come when the storm stops. It comes when you realize who's in the boat with you. And as long as He is with you, you have nothing to fear. Peace is not a place, it's a person. And He is always faithful. Letting go is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, especially when life feels like it's slipping through your fingers. We're taught to hold on tightly, to plan every step, to control outcomes, to make sure nothing falls apart. But in that effort to control everything, we often find ourselves burdened, anxious, and overwhelmed. The truth is, the more tightly we hold on, the heavier life becomes. The burdens we carry, worry, fear, regret, guilt, expectations, begin to crush our spirit. We were never meant to carry it all. That weight was never ours to bear alone. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you finally admit, I can't do this by myself. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's realizing that your strength has limits, but God's strength doesn't. When you let go of your need to control every detail and surrender it to the one who sees the whole picture, something beautiful happens. Your heart begins to rest, not because the circumstances have changed, but because your posture has changed. You're no longer gripping life with white knuckles. You're releasing it into the hands of someone far more capable. It's in surrender that calm begins to rise. It's in letting go that peace flows in. Because when you finally lay down what you were never meant to carry, you make space for God to carry you. You allow His peace to meet you where you are. Not because everything makes sense, but because your trust is no longer in outcomes, it's in Him. You stop striving to fix everything and start believing that He's already working it out in ways you can't yet see. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become passive. It means you understand where your responsibility ends and where God's begins. It means you show up with faith instead of fear. You pray instead of panic. You release the timeline, the pressure, the fear of failure, and you step into trust. And in that place of trust, peace begins to guard your heart. Sometimes we think holding on is a sign of strength, but often it's in the release that strength is truly found. Because it takes courage to let go. It takes faith to surrender. It takes spiritual maturity to say, God, I trust you more than I trust my plans. And that kind of trust doesn't just bring peace, it brings transformation. So if your heart is heavy, if your mind is racing, if your soul is tired, pause, breathe, let go. Not into nothingness, but into the hands of a loving, faithful, and all-knowing God. He's not asking you to figure it all out. He's inviting you to hand it over. Because when you finally stop trying to control the outcome, you begin to experience the calm you've been craving all along. There are moments in life when the storms feel endless, when the thunder of heartache drowns out your hope, when the lightning of unexpected trials leaves your soul trembling. You pray, but all you hear is silence. You seek comfort, but the pain remains. In those moments, it's easy to wonder where God is. It's easy to think he's forgotten you or turned away. But the truth is, his presence isn't proven by the absence of the storm. It's proven by the peace he gives in the middle of it. God never promised a life without storms. What he promised is that he would walk with you through every single one. His presence isn't always loud. It's not always a miracle that parts the sea or a voice that booms from the heavens. Sometimes his presence is a quiet strength that helps you stand when everything inside you wants to fall apart. It's the whisper in your soul that says you're not alone, even when the world around you feels like it's crashing down. You may not feel him every moment. You may not see what he's doing, but faith believes he's still there, working in the silence, comforting in the pain, fighting battles you can't see. The enemy would love for you to believe that the storm is proof of God's absence, but in reality, the storm is the very place where God reveals his power, where he shows you that his peace isn't fragile or temporary. It's deep, steady, and strong enough to hold you even when life shakes you to your core. Sometimes we look for peace in the wrong places. We wait for life to calm down before we feel okay. But real peace isn't when the storm ends. It's when you discover that God is with you right in the middle of it. It's when you realize that his hand has never left you, even when your eyes couldn't see him. It's when you find the strength to worship with tears in your eyes, to trust when the answers haven't come, to believe when all you have is faith. The storm may rage, but God's presence is greater. The winds may blow, but they cannot blow away his love. The waves may rise, but they will never rise higher than his promises. And in the middle of it all, he is whispering peace to your soul. Not because everything is fixed, but because he is with you. You don't have to wait for the storm to pass to know peace. You just need to look for the one who stands with you in the rain. He's closer than the air you breathe. He's holding you through the fear. And when you feel like the storm might break you, he's the one holding you together. His presence is your anchor. His peace is your shelter. And no storm, no matter how fierce, is stronger than the one who speaks peace to the waves. There are times when you reach the end of yourself, when your strength is gone, your courage is cracked, and your heart is tired from trying. You wake up and wonder how you'll make it through another day. You smile for others, but deep inside, you're barely holding on. The world tells you to be strong, to tough it out, to push through. But what happens when you've given it your all and there's nothing left to give? That's where faith comes in. Faith doesn't demand that you be strong. It invites you to lean on the one who is. You don't have to fake it until you make it. You don't have to carry the weight alone. God never asked you to be perfect. He asked you to trust him in your weakness, to believe that his power is made perfect right where you're falling apart. It's a strange thing to find peace when you're at your weakest, but that's the power of divine strength. It shows up in the broken places. It shines in the dark. It carries you when your legs can't walk, and it lifts you when your spirit feels crushed. God doesn't need you to be mighty. He needs you to be willing. Willing to let go of self-reliance. Willing to say, I can't do this on my own. Willing to let his strength become your foundation. The world celebrates independence, but faith thrives in surrender. It's not about pushing through in your own power. It's about walking forward even when you're trembling, because you know you're not alone. God's strength is steady. It doesn't waver when yours does. It doesn't run dry. It doesn't tire or give up. And the moment you call on him, he answers. Not always by removing the struggle, but by stepping into it with you. When you're weak, your faith becomes the bridge between who you are and who God is. It reminds you that your value isn't measured by your strength, but by his grace. You are not less because you struggle. You are not disqualified because you feel weary. You are simply human, and God is fully divine. And in the gap between your weakness and his strength, peace is born. So if you feel like you're breaking, take heart. Your weakness is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of a deeper dependence, a richer faith, and a peace that surpasses understanding. You don't need to be the strongest person in the room. You just need to be the one who says, God, I need you. And in that quiet surrender, He will lift you. He will hold you, He will strengthen you, and His peace will flood your soul, not because you've done everything right, but because you dared to believe that He is enough when you are not. Peace is not something that magically appears when life is easy. It's not a permanent state you reach and then never struggle with again. Peace is a daily choice, a conscious decision to trust God, to surrender your worries, and to believe His promises, even when your heart is anxious, your mind is racing, and your emotions pull you in every direction. Every day brings its own challenges. Some days you wake up and feel strong, full of faith and hope, but other days you wake up with a heavy heart, with fears you can't quite name and pressures you can't shake. In those moments, peace isn't a feeling, it's a choice. You may not feel calm, but you can still choose to trust. You may not understand what's happening, but you can still choose to surrender, and that choice, even when made in weakness, is an act of faith that invites peace into your day. Peace doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It doesn't mean ignoring your struggles or shutting down your emotions. It means taking your fears to God instead of letting them control you. It means whispering a prayer when your heart is overwhelmed. It means choosing to believe that God is with you. You don't need a perfect environment to have peace. You don't need all your prayers answered or every problem solved. Peace begins when you decide to lean into God instead of leaning on your own understanding. It begins when you silence the lies that say, you're not enough, or this will never get better, and replace them with truth. God is faithful. He is with me. He has a plan. Some days, choosing peace will feel like a battle. But it's in those hard-fought choices that your faith grows stronger. You build spiritual muscle every time you choose to praise instead of panic, to pray instead of worry, to rest instead of strive. And over time, you find that peace becomes a pattern, not just something you long for, but something you live in. The world may never stop trying to steal your peace, but it can't take what you've placed in God's hands. So choose peace today. Choose it in the middle of the unknown. Choose it when your emotions run wild. Choose it when everything in you wants to shut down or give up. Let peace be your anchor, your refuge, your shield. Not because life is easy, but because your trust is rooted in a God who never changes. Your past may be messy, it may be filled with regrets, pain, mistakes, or chapters you wish you could erase, but it does not disqualify you from peace. In fact, it's often the very place where God's grace begins to shine the brightest. The enemy would love for you to believe that what you've done, or what's been done to you, has put peace forever out of reach, but that's not the truth. Your past does not define your future, and it does not block you from the healing power of God's presence. There's nothing you've been through that God can't redeem. There's no moment too dark, no sin too deep, no wound too raw for Him to heal. He doesn't see you through the lens of your past. He sees you through the lens of His love. And His love says you are still worthy, still chosen, still held. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You can believe God forgives you, but you struggle to let yourself off the hook. You replay the failures. You carry the guilt. You wear shame like a weight around your neck. But God is not holding your past over your head. He's not waiting for you to pay a price that Jesus already paid. He's inviting you to step out of that prison and into His peace. Peace doesn't come from pretending your past never happened. It comes from handing it over to God and allowing Him to transform it. Your story doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. In fact, it's your brokenness, your scars, your testimony of restoration that will speak to others who are still in their own storm. What the enemy meant to destroy you, God can use to strengthen you. to shape you, to bring hope to someone else. You may have been through battles that left you weary. You may have walked through seasons of sin or suffering that tried to silence you, but your peace is not based on your perfection. It's based on His promise to forgive, to restore, to make all things new. And He means all things, including the things you think are too far gone. So don't let the past keep you stuck. Don't let it steal the peace God is offering you today. You are not disqualified. You are not discredited. You are not damaged goods. You are a child of God, covered in grace, and invited into a peace that surpasses understanding. Let today be the day you stop looking backward with shame and start looking forward with faith. Let today be the day you give your past to God and trust Him to use every piece of it for His glory. Peace is still yours. Healing is still possible. Purpose is still alive. Your story isn't over. And the next chapter can be filled with peace you never thought you deserved, but have always been loved enough to receive,